If he has to point those spells at the creatures, could go either way. We'll see how it plays out. Some important cards in both decks. From Terrell, Grim Lavamancer. It does great work against decks with a lot of smaller creatures like Evans. And anything else over there that you think is particularly effective for Terrell or for Evan?
I think that one of the things that is going to be really huge is Terrell's Vapor Snag is going to be able to get a huge creature like, say, a Knight of the Reliquary off the table. Normally, a Knight of the Reliquary, once it's on the table, will just stick. Terrell can actually pop it off. Now, Evan, on the other hand, Mother of Runes, going to be a all-star in this matchup.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. If that Mother of Runes is able to survive a turn and use its ability, it's gonna, really limit what Terrell can do. There's also 2 Umezawa's Jitte in the main deck for Evan that are great in these kind of creature matchups. Great against burn because it can gain you a bunch of life. So I think Evan's well positioned, but Terrell has more explosive draws, the potential to really put Evan on the back foot, and I think that's what he'll look to do. If he can't, we'll see how he shifts into a more controlling role.
Now, if you're just joining us, there have been 279 players whittled down to this top 8, and we are going to see which one of them will reign supreme at the end of the 9 rounds of Swiss that we've seen today.
Yep, we see a fetch land from each player. Terrell using his Scalding Tarn and looking for... Seems he's looking for a basic, passed by a couple of volcanic islands. He does go for a basic island, and I think I saw a Delver in his hand. I would not be surprised if the deck's namesake card comes down on turn 1. I think we also have a Force of Will and possibly a Daze in Terrell's hand. We do see that Delver coming down, and Terrell passes a turn. Evan sacrificing Windswept Heath at the end of Terrell's turn. Players, an interesting thing to note right here, players tend to sacrifice their fetch lands at the end of their opponent's turn from a time when they were used to getting Ravnica block shock lands and putting them into play tapped, not taking 2 damage. In Legacy, you don't always need to sacrifice it at the end of your opponent's turn. You can wait. There's not much difference sacrificing it on your own turn. You have more information that way too.
One other thing to note here, look at both of those basic lands that Evan Wagstaff has fetched out. Well, one of them fetched out in any case. And this is very important. Both players are able to see each other's deck lists before they play. We do that in all of our top 8s. And Evan Wagstaff knows that Terrell Boaz's deck has Price of Progress. And so he is very intelligently avoiding getting too many non-basic lands into play.
Yeah, very wise move by Evan. We saw Thalia countered by a Daze using the alternate casting cost. That island came back down, didn't make anything on this turn. Terrell did draw a Goblin Guide on his turn though. Here we're going to see a Brainstorm in response to that Thalia before it makes the Brainstorm cost 2 mana. After that Brainstorm, I would expect that we're going to see that Delver flipping if it manages to stay alive till Terrell's next turn.
One thing to remember, Evan Wagstaff definitely has 4 Swords to Plowshares in his deck, so that Delver is not necessarily going to stick around. Force of Will used to stop Thalia. Thalia, a very good card against all of the instants and sorceries in this deck.
Yeah, it looks like 27 spells in Terrell's deck, so it hits a lot of those. We do see Brainstorm flip that Delver. Looks like Terrell picked up a couple of fetch lands also off that Brainstorm, so getting him out of a little bit of mana problems he may have had. And Terrell goes to fetch a basic mountain. So 5 basic lands in play. Not exactly what you're used to seeing in Legacy. Both of these players very aware that they each have cards to punish the opponent for fetching out basics. Wasteland in the case of Evan, and Price of Progress in the case of Terrell.
One thing to note for all of you Caleb Durward fans out there, also, that last round, Alex Benek, we had a question on Twitter, where did people end up? Well, we don't see Alex Benek, Caleb Durward, or Adam Prozac. They all were on that bubble, but it was a clean break, tied for 9th place. Alex Benek at the top of it, 21 points, did not make top 8. So if you want to ask us other questions at SCG Live, we do our best to answer those questions that we get. And the conversation, hashtag SCGCIN. Now back to this match in play, you can see the Goblin Guide and the Delver both tapped, Evan Wagstaff, I don't know, his life total is getting rapidly low, and no creatures in play currently.
Yep, the Goblin Guide revealed a Knight of the Reliquary, although those 2 creatures did come in for 5 damage last turn. We see Evan with a Knight and also an Aven Mind Sensor in hand and 1 or 2 more cards. We'll see what he can do to try to hold off the 2 small creatures of Terrell. He puts down a Knight of the Reliquary that will be a 4/4 if it resolves from the 2 lands in Evan's graveyard. Terrell fires off a Brainstorm, what I imagine is probably in response to that. He has a hand of Delver, Chain Lightning, a couple of lands, one of which is a fetch, and appears to be another Goblin Guide as well. I wonder if we'll see him send this Goblin Guide in, trying to offer a trade of Goblin Guide plus that burn spell. Looks like we won't. I don't see the burn spell in Terrell's hand anymore. Delver comes down, so Terrell has that Chain Lightning on top, ready to flip that next Delver. Terrell has decided, I'm going to win with flying creatures in this match. If I'm going to win it at all, another Goblin Guy gets added to the board.
And
they all go in.
Boom. 7 damage on the table. The Knight of the Reliquary can definitely soak up one of these guys.
And looks like Evan is choosing to block. So Terrell will get across for 5 damage, dropping Evan to 7. Evan revealed a Thalia off that Goblin Guide. A nice blocker and also a card to make Evan spend a little more mana. And we see Quasali Pride Mage, Thalia, Horizon Canopy, and 1 more card in Evan's hand. Looks like an Aven Mind Sensor.
Now, Evan does have some main deck life gain in the form of Scavenging Ooze, but that is expensive life gain. 1 mana to gain 1 life with the green activation cost. If there's a creature to eat, it might be too slow, even if he gets it out right now.
Yeah, I think Evan is going to have to look to trade off that Mind Sensor for one of those Delvers. But like you said, even then, these 2 Delvers threatening 6 damage, potential burn spell from Terrell as well, and Evan just at a very low 7 life. So in the tank here, trying to figure out what he can come up with. We'll see if he has any lands that might get him out of this situation. He has, to fetch with that Knight, he has 2 Cavern of Souls, a Karakas, a pair of Horizon Canopies, and a Dryad Arbor. So we don't see something like a Maze of Ith that might stop one of those Delvers. He's doesn't really have any non-basics that are going to help him out too much here. We see that Chain Lightning revealed to Delver. It flips, and
2 creatures come in the air. With that 2 mana, the Knight of the Reliquary can turn a forest or a plains into another land. And this would mean he would have the 3 mana necessary for the Aven Mind Sensor, so he can hop somebody in the way.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see the Mind Sensor come down here. First non-basic in play for Evan, turning on any Price of Progress that Terrell may draw.
The number of basics in this deck, you see them all between the graveyard and the main deck. That's 1 plains and 3 forests. Any further lands that Evan Wagstaff gets are going to be non-basics.
Yeah, so turning on that very dangerous card that we've seen take some people out this weekend already. Aven Mind Sensor jumps in the way of a Delver. The other one gets through, dropping Evan to 4. And Terrell has Chain Lightning in hand that he's just going to go ahead and fire off right now.
Go to 1.
Evan to 1. So he's saying, do you have something for this Delver, or is this game over and are we going to game 2? See what he draws.
I see a Green Sun Zenith. The Green Sun Zenith can go and get a Scavenging Ooze, but I don't think that that's going to be enough. The Thalia does make his Green Sun Zenith cost 1 more mana.
Yeah, we'll see what he can get. He does have 1 copy of Scrib Ranger in his deck.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Protection from blue 1/1 flyer will stop that Delver if he gets it out, although he's still in a real tough spot, vulnerable to any burn spell from Terrell. Terrell says a lot of ways to filter and find that burn spell.
And we see the Green Sun Zenith for green, +1 for Thalia, and then 2.
Yeah, and we'll see what he goes with here. He as he's going through, sees that Scrib Ranger and looks like he decides to go with that one. Green
Now,
Sun shuffling back into the library.
Scrib Ranger plus Knight of the Reliquary can actually produce a grand total of 1, 2, 3 mana. He can tap the Knight of the Reliquary to get a new land into play. He can untap the Knight of the Reliquary by returning a forest to his hand. He can lay a forest and then tap the Knight of the Reliquary again. If he doesn't fear Price of Progress, he can get 3 mana from that Scrib Ranger plus the Knight of the Reliquary.
Yeah, cards like Scrib Ranger and Quarian Ranger, along with any card that taps to produce mana or effectively produce mana, really just can balloon your mana total out of nowhere. We see Grim Lavamancer come down. That's really rough for Evan.
Ouch.
And we do see that Knight activated. We'll see if Evan can come up with anything. If he lets Terrell untap, we will probably see 2 damage going over from that Lavamancer. Evan at just 1 life.
Nice.
Okay. Wasteland takes care of the Volcanic Island.
It's a step. It's a step.
Yeah, Evan's going to need something here. He does have those 2 Umezawa's Jitte that could gain him some life or take care of that Grim Lavamancer.
Now,
both of those in his deck.
Does Evan have Kasali Pride Mage in play?
Believe
in
he
hand,
has
I
a
mean, in
Quasali
hand?
Pride Mage in hand, yes.
Yeah, I guess I feel like the last turn he should have done that Wasteland play right away and had a Kasali Pride Mage in play as well. And now he draws a card.
And
With
sees
the
if
Horizon
it's
Canopy.
anything. It looks like a Caracas from up here.
Now, remember, the Knight of the Reliquary with that Scrib Ranger, that Knight is pretty big. And now he still has to answer the Grim Lava. Nope, no answer to the Grim Lavamancer.
Yep, and we're gonna move on to sideboarding. Terrell takes a quick game on the back of a couple of Flip Delvers, dealing a whole bunch of damage to Evan, and a Chain Lightning and Grim Lavamancer putting the game away.
Okay, now while our players here sideboard going into their game 2 plans, we're going to see who else can be a winner out there in our Twitterverse and our viewership for the Star City Games Live Open Series here in Cincinnati, Ohio. The way that our premium giveaway works, we give away 3 free months of Star City Games Premium to a lucky viewer out there during the quarterfinals. During the semifinals, we give away 6 free months of Star City Game Premium. And can you give me 2 fingers for a second? It's going to be 12 free months of Star City Games Premium if you can get it during the finals. Thank you for the assist, Ben.
Anytime.
Now, earlier we went through the top 8 archetypes in this Star City Games Open Series Legacy event. Normally, I've been talking about how these events have often 8 or 7 different archetypes in the top 8. For this quarterfinal trivia question, if you answer this correctly, with the hashtag SCG Premium in your answer, one amongst you will get 3 free months of Star City Games Premium. The quarterfinal premium question: how many different archetypes are in the top 8 of this event? Now, if you go to through our coverage, you'll be able to guess this and be able to find this information out. The print side does have a lot of information out there for you, but the thing to remember, hashtag SCG Premium. And just to make this simple, if things are from a generic archetype where there's maybe small variants, we're just going to go for the super archetype, not, oh, well, that's Blue-White Miracles with Helm of Obedience. That's a different archetype than Blue-White Miracles without Helm of Obedience. Just the super archetypes. How many different are there in our top 8? SCG Premium, hashtag.
Yep, and we'll hopefully be getting along to Game 2 shortly, but the premium side of SCG is a lot of really great quality content, and you won't want to miss out on any of it. And they're shuffling up for Game 2. What do we think about these players' sideboards?
Well, they all have 15 cards. That's a good start.
Okay, no game losses here.
Beyond that, I actually look at Terrell's sideboard, and he's got Smash to Smithereens as a potential answer to Umezawa's Jitte, but it is the only card in Evan Wagstaff's deck that can be smashed to Smithereens, and every other card that Terrell Boaz has in his sideboard, I don't know that it actually would come in against the Maverick opponent that he's playing here. He might bring in Vendilion Click, maybe. He might bring in the fourth Price of Progress, maybe. But you saw how efficiently that Evan Wagstaff was able to operate on basic lands there. So I'm not sure if either of those cards is going to end up coming in.
Yeah, and from Evan's side, we have a one-of Spike Feeder that he might bring in as a potential blocker and to gain some life. We may see Sylvan Safekeeper coming in to protect his more important creatures from the burn being used as a removal from Terrell. Wouldn't be surprised to see those two gut shots take care of Lavamancer and Unflipped Delvers. Both of those cards very important in game one.
Yeah, Path to Exile, I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely bring in Path to Exile. You know, it gives Terrell an extra land, and the Thalias are good in this matchup, but I think removing something like a Delver is just too important.
Now, one of the cards I definitely like in the sideboard for Evan Wagstaff is Sylvan Safekeeper. Sylvan Safekeeper, a 1/1 from, I want to say, gosh... Well, it's the Ole Rade Invitational card that was printed much, much, much after Ole Rade won the Invitational. Many years later, he said, you know, I never did submit an Invitational card, and I feel really bad about that. Can I finally submit one? They said yes. One of the reasons I like it, it's an incredible card against Price of Progress.
Yeah, so that card, a 1/1 for 1, I believe.
That's correct.
And it allows you to sacrifice a land to, is it make one of your creatures untargetable?
That's correct.
So allows him to get around burn being aimed at his creatures, but also if a Price of Progress comes down, he can sack any number of those non-basic lands and just make that Price of Progress basically as small as he wants it to be, as small as he's willing to go in terms of losing those lands.
Now, Sylvan Safekeeper is no troubled healer in this matchup, but I would be surprised to see a troubled healer in the sideboard.
Well, we don't see one here, so if he plays one, we might have a problem.
Well, then I'm hoping he doesn't. If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Ben Hayes, and we're watching the quarterfinals here, the first match of this quarterfinals.
And we see Evan start off with a Windswept Heath, looking for... Seems like he's looking for a basic. Yeah, we see a Plains come down here. And we'll see if he has anything on turn 1. From Terrell, we see Island, Force of Will, and a handful of other cards. Mother of Ruins comes down. And yeah, Terrell understands exactly how important that card in this matchup is in this matchup. Wastes no time firing off Force of Will, getting rid of that. Draws Lightning Bolt and lays Island and Delver of Secrets. Evan untaps, draws a Swords to Plowshares, a slightly newer art, plays a Savannah, and Swords is going to look to get rid of that Delver right away.
Yep.
So I think a very good start for Evan, even though he lost his Mother of Runes. He drew out the Force of Will, he got rid of that Delver. Terrell is down to just 4 cards, and you know, Evan's still at 19 after a couple turns.
Main phase Brainstorm. Draws 3. He already has the fetch land. Now, Evan in the previous turn with that Swords to Plowshares very wisely put his his second land into play so that a Wayward Days wouldn't stymie his Swords to Plowshares. Terrell now laying his second land, brainstorming. He'll be able to throw away any of these cards which are not what he wants yet. So we'll see what he does. Shuffles away right away.
And I think we're going to see another Delver come down here, and I saw 2 burn spells, one of which definitely looked like a Chain Lightning. We see Volcanic Island come out here. Now he needs the red mana to cast those burn spells. He needs the blue now to get the Delver down, but that is risky against an opponent running 4 Wastelands when he's already down quite a few cards. And goes for that Volcanic Island, plays a Delver, passes. We see a Green Sun Zenith. I believe Evan has a Spike Feeder in hand as well, an Aven Mind Sensor, and a Scrib Ranger.
Yes.
So I don't see a third land, but some... Oh, yeah, there is maybe a Horizon Canopy in the front of his hand.
Yep, that is a Horizon Canopy. And I want to say thank you to It's That Frank Guy on Twitter. It's been a long day here at the Star City Games Open Series, a long weekend of coverage. We have been broadcasting now for about 14 and a half hours, and I could not remember what set Sylvan Safekeeper was from. It is from Judgment. Thank you, It's That Frank Guy. And if you want to be involved in the conversation here about this tournament, hashtag SCGCIN, and tweet to everyone here at SCG Live.
Yep, a great way to let us know what you're thinking about this match. So we did see that Horizon Canopy come down. Delver did not flip, comes across for just 1 damage. And we'll see Terrell pass the turn back. Evan is going to make an Avon Mind Sensor, which is going to cost him 1 life from that Horizon Canopy at the end of Terrell's turn. Now, Terrell has a choice whether he wants to spend that Lightning Bolt, and he does not. Evan untaps. And Spike Feeder, Green Sun, Zenith in hand, and 1 mystery card.
Oh,
Okay.
Avon Mind Sensor, you are an aggressive little bird.
And Terrell not interested in taking that 2 damage, just knocks the Mind Sensor out right away.
Old school players rejoice. Look at that, it's a Spike Feeder. This is a 0/0 with 2 1/1 counters on it. Each 1/1 counter could be sacrificed at any time to gain 2 life, or you can spend 2 mana and move one of those tokens to another creature.
And we see Nick Spagnolo off in the distance, hears us mention Spike Feeder, and looks shocked over at the coverage area.
I know, I'm having a flashback to 1998 when Randy Bueller had this in his white-green Oath deck at U.S. Nationals, and I had this in Counter Oath. So he and I both crushing with the Oath decks that year, and wow, Spike Feeder. Let's go back 15 years.
Yeah, still, still a solid card, and playing a nice role here. We see Snapcaster Mage come down, a little bit newer card, and Flashback of Brainstorm.
Now, the art we showed for that was a Time Spiral one. That kind of makes me a little sad.
And that looks like that Snapcaster and Brainstorm are on the upkeep, which is going to allow the Delver to flip and come across for 3 damage. Terrell has
a pretty
Chain
saucy
Lightning.
hand.
Yeah, it looks like 3 red cards, Chain Lightning and Price of Progress.
I think I saw Chain Lightning, Goblin Guide, and something else, but I'm not 100% sure. Price of Progress is amongst them. Now, we've got to be careful with our voices. As the evening has progressed, we had once had 700 players in this room. We went down to maybe about half that at a certain point, and now we're down to a small handful. So even though it would be hard to throw a baseball and hit the players, they're that far away, well, they can still hear us sometimes.
Yeah, we're going to have to be a little careful about that. And
there we go. Look at that. There's a real Spike Feeder. That's what I'm talking about.
We've got the old Spike Feeder up.
Thank you, Director Shoebox. For those of you who have been wondering about our pairings, I know that Glenn Jones did let us know one of the reasons the pairings have not been going up, some sort of strange bug or glitch is literally deleting them every time we put them up. So our apologies if you can't get the pairings online, the standings online. We've tried. I'm not sure if Anonymous got onto us or what, but we're sorry about that.
Yeah, technical difficulties. We're at target now. We see Cavern of Souls come down. Looks like it was used to cast that Scavenging Ooze, so I guess it's naming Ooze. And the Savannah used to activate Scavenging Ooze, exiling, looks like a couple of creatures.
Ouch.
From Evan's graveyard, gaining him a couple of life, growing that Scavenging Ooze. He does take 1 point from the Horizon Canopy, so breaks even there.
Now notice right here, Terrell Boaz has that Price of Progress in hand, and there are 3 non-base can play. That's a pretty hefty sum of the life total. With that Delver of Secrets now an Insectile Aberration, he's doing a lot of damage here.
Yeah, he has quite a lot of direct damage in hand, and we'll see how he chooses to use it.
Chain Lightning your face.
Looks like it was, yeah, I think it was probably there. And a Price
of Progress your face. Take 9. So that turn he did 12 damage.
Yeah, huge life swing that turn. And Evan down to just 2. So the Spike Feeder represents a decent amount of life, as does the Scavenging Ooze.
I don't know. How many creatures are there left in any graveyards? I think the graveyards might be empty.
I think they might be, although the Spike Feeder can sacrifice itself by removing both counters and then become removed. So I think Evan has an effective 5 life on the table here.
5 life seems so small right now.
Yeah, especially against that Delver that's getting in repeated damage. If it was just burn spells, it might be enough, but not going to do it against a Delver. So we'll see if Evan has something else, something to possibly deal with this Delver, or maybe even go on the offensive if he can buy a turn or 2 with his life gain. Looks like he is thinking about and chooses to attack with Scavenging Ooze.
Here he comes, a 4/4. What do you say, Snappy?
I think we see a Swords to Plowshares in Evan's hand.
Ooh, so that Swords to Plowshares in his hand, he can use it in so many different ways. He can use it to get rid of the Delver of Secrets, but he can also potentially use it as a mini burst of life if he's desperate.
Yeah, I think it's a Swords to Plowshares. The new art looks surprisingly similar to Green Sun Zenith, but he may have both of those in hand, actually.
Okay, some reports from the field. If you're interested, Joe Bernal is up 1-0 versus Rob Vaca. That's Esperblade 1 game over Enter the Infinite. It's not a martial arts movie, no, it's a deck.
And we see 3 mana tapped here for a Green Sun Zenith Xs2. And again, as in game 1, we see Scrib Ranger coming out here. Green Sun Zenith shuffled back in. Scrib Ranger is going to look to jump in the way of that Delver. If it can, we'll see if this is enough.
Another note from the floor. Apparently, Michael Tabler with High Tide winning the first game against Esper Stoneblade in the hands of Jacob Holland. So we have 2 games in. High Tide up a game and Esperblade up a game in 2 different matchups.
And we see in this game, Evan with that Ranger in play, returning the land, untapping Scavenging Ooze. Scrib Ranger doing a lot of work here. Puts that Savannah back into play.
Theoretically, just with the Scrib Ranger, he is able to sacrifice the Horizon Canopy and return the Savannah all in one fell swoop, and he could theoretically only take 2 damage from a Price of Progress at this point.
Yeah, Scrib Ranger only being able to be activated once a turn, but it was activated on an Evan's turn. Now Evan's passed the turn, he can activate it again on Terrell's turn. Oh, I see a Lightning Bolt and a Price of Progress. I do not think Evan has...
Oh, he does have the life gain still. He does have the life gain still.
And
okay, so we're going to see sacrifice the land.
And draw. We'll probably see that land, yep, like you said, turned by Scrib Ranger. So...
And Spike Feeder, he's going to try to gain some life here.
Going to gain 2.
Goes up to 4 life.
Takes 2 because of that Cavern of Souls. Terrell down to 10.
Yep. Remember, Terrell is not immune to his own Price of Progress. Evan Wagstaff takes 2 from the Price, gains 2 from the Spike Feeder, and still alive.
Yeah, just 2 life. Facing down, it looks like it looks to be a hand of Goblin Guide and the Lightning Bolt, although that Spike Feeder will let him get up to 4, just barely out of range of that Lightning Bolt. And we'll see what Terrell chooses to do here. I think in this case I might actually aim that Lightning Bolt at the Scrib Ranger.
Yeah, the Scrib Ranger dying is the equivalent of 3 damage as opposed to just shooting the face, because in both cases the 3 damage is going to happen, but in one case the Scrib Ranger will be dead. Oh my goodness.
Just passes the turn. Yeah, and in the case where he took down the Scrib Ranger, that would also allow the Delver to potentially get in next turn. So representing a possible 6.
One of the things he can do here, though, is he can wait to try to respond to Evan Wagstaff's attempt to gain life and use his instant removal or his instant burn as a means to finish the game that way. Yeah, there are still no creatures in the graveyard.
He may be going for something more along those lines. And Terrell actually down to 6. It looks like the second Price of Progress wasn't updated. And that allows Evan to go on the offensive, which is not where Terrell wants to be.
This is a close game here.
Yeah, both players at very low life totals. Evan with some a very large scavenging ooze, and Terrell with some potentially lethal burn. So this game looks to be ending very shortly. It could really go either way.
And remember, there's a Swords to Plowshares in Evan Wagstaff's hand.
Oh, and an ooze that just keeps getting bigger.
The ooze removes the Snapcaster Mage, gains a life for Evan Wagstaff, and we see, a second ooze. I don't like that. Oh, I don't like that one bit. Lightning bolt your face. In response, Evan Wagstaff gains 2 life, goes up to 4, goes down to 1.
5, 1 extra from the scavenging ooze.
Oh, okay,
so
1 extra from the cab. I didn't have that on the. It was not on the on the page yet there. So yes, Snapcaster Bolt is death.
Yep. And bulk goes up. We'll see. And just a Knight and Misty. So it looks like that was a Green Sun Zenith. My apologies. And Terrell takes that match 2-0. Yeah, as we said, the blue-white Delver player was really able to be on the offensive for the most of those 2 games, and that's really where he wants to be. If Evan can come out quickly, then it's a lot worse for Terrell.